keeping with my Jewish tradition, we often start with this song, which is Shalom Haverim, which is kind of welcome everyone. So since we're sitting here silently, this may have been something you've heard before. It goes Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Lehitraot, Lehitraot, Shalom, Shalom. So it's just a very common way when a group of Jewish people get together. It's not religious, although it's in Hebrew. It's something we commonly sing when a group of friends get together. And it's just, you know, it's good to see everybody and we'll see each other again soon. It's often sung at the beginning of a gathering. A lot of young people sing it at camp. It's often sung at the end of a gathering. But hopefully part of this is sharing knowledge, but sharing maybe just a little bit of culture. So I think that may have been our 60 seconds, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Before I hand it over to you, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that beautiful song. I'm a little bit familiar with it, with the melody there. So thank you so much on behalf of everybody in the room. Before I do hand it over to our speaker, I just wanted to provide a little bit of information about the organization, as well as our presenter today. Just starting off with, on behalf of Sound Vision, I wanted to thank everyone for their time to coming into this session. Just to keep in mind that Sound Vision is an educational organization that provides a lot of webinar as well as workshop opportunities for people across the United States as well as Canada. Just keeping in mind that we do have a Q&A box as well as a chat function that you are more than welcome to tap into if you have any questions or comments about the presentation. And lastly, just to keep in mind that we are administrating a poll somewhere within the presentation. So just a heads up for that. The way that you would participate is directly within the poll, just for best results. And a little bit about our presenter before I hand it over, where it looks like we're just on time. So Anne Rosenfield is the director of the Hillborn charity eMuse, as well as being a frontline fundraiser. She does happen to have over 20 years of experience within the field of fundraising, and she has won awards such as the Mo Davies Award for Excellence in Small Organizational Fundraising twice, as a matter of fact, and she is both an executive director as well as a board member of the organization. So thank you so much. Just keeping all of our points in mind about the question time, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. I'm going to go right ahead and share, get started, and talk a little bit. And I'm going to encourage you, if you have questions, I'm going to pause. I'll probably do the first like 2 slides and then I'll pause.
Sure.
And feel free to put questions in the chat, both questions that you find useful about what is it about Jewish fundraising that can be helpful to you, as well as if you have, you know, cultural questions about Jewish fundraising. So the first thing I want to, oh, now my, come on, slides. I was so happy that, yay. Okay.
We can see your screen, you're good to go. Great.
No, I couldn't get the slides to advance. So, and now I know how to do that.
Okay, great.
We're all learning as we go. So I believe you have a similar word. The word in Judaism that we translate for charity in English, which is an imperfect translation, is the word tzedakah. And tzedakah is an interesting word because the root of the word tzedakah is tzedek, which is righteous. So you may have heard in, there is the walk of righteous Gentiles. So after the Holocaust, people who had aided, supported Jews during the Holocaust, there is a place, and there's and it's got the word tzedek in it. So a righteous person is a tzedek. And one way to understand tzedakah is less that it's about charity or generosity, which I think of as being more of a Christian thought. Lori probably talked a bit about this yesterday. Tzedakah is more about justice or about fairness. So that's a pretty central point. I'm just going to look here. Are there any questions, or shall I go on?
I think it's just a lot of people kindly echoing your words of shalom and welcome in Hebrew. Otherwise, we're good to go. What I will do is I will periodically jump in with any questions just as they start to trickle in. But thank you for checking.
Great. So bear this mind about righteousness in, and this, as we warned you, there's going to be a poll. Just in case your screen's acting up, or some people may have visual impairment and they won't be able to see. There's a famous Jewish scholar from the Middle Ages named Maimonides. Okay, I can't answer that question, but I'm hoping someone else can. I know Imam Ershad, we have you on the line. So is Sadaqah and Tzedakah, would you say those are similar? Sorry, I dragged you into the presentation.
No,
would you say those are similar concepts?
Yep, no, that's what I'm here for. No worries at all. Yes, they are. And Imam Ershad is also agreeing on the chat as well. Great question.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. So in terms of Tzedakah, Moses Maimonides from the Middle Ages had 8 categories of Tzedakah, and you're going to take a poll, and I'm hoping that you don't guess because he actually ranked them. And so the list here is outside of ranked order. So the question is, what's the highest form of tzedakah? What's the highest form of giving? And we've got when the donor gives less than is fitting, but gives willingly or gives with a smile. The recipient knows the identity of the donor, but the donor doesn't know who got the gift. Anonymous gift, where the donor and receivers do not know the identity of each other. The recipient and donor know each other's identity, but the gift is given without being requested. A business partnership job or a no-interest loan. A gift where the donor knows identity of the recipient, but the recipient doesn't know who is the donor. So start thinking about how you're going to think which one of these is the most important, because we're about to do the poll. The gift is less fitting, and the donor gives unwillingly. And the recipient and the donor know each other, but the recipient has to ask for the gift. So I know the poll has been posted. So you're just going to take a moment here and fill in the poll, which I believe you can see, correct?
I think this is a great opportunity just to remind everyone to participate in the poll directly. So on your screen in the bottom center, there's just a function that says poll. That would be the best way to participate. I'm getting a few people saying that they can't see the poll. Let me know in your screen, like on the bottom bar, like where it says chat, if there should be a button that says poll. Okay, someone's saying it's not there. Okay, what we'll do is I'm just going to jump on a call with one of our co-organizers and see if we can.
You know what we could do?
Yes.
Or what we could do, just because I'm in the interest of time, if that's okay with you, I'm being a little unruly. And by the way, this Zoom bomber, ironically, yes, I'm a Jewish household this is Pharaoh the cat, who, as you can guess, I adopted from another family, and Pharaoh likes to Zoom bomb whenever there's a meeting going on. So
I don't think anyone has an issue with that. No problem at all.
I'm glad. Thank you for your support of Pharaoh. I put the poll questions up. If you look at the list, do you want to just maybe put to everyone what you think the highest form of tzedakah would be? Is it when the recipient and the giver know each other? Is it when there's a business opportunity created? Anonymous giving, so one person's saying when it's anonymous, the gift is given willingly. Pharaoh, by the way, would not give tzedakah to any of you people or me, frankly. Pharaoh is all about himself.
It's the nature of cats. Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead.
So we've got a couple of people saying anonymous giving is the highest form.
I have a question on the question. Sorry.
Sure. Ask the question on the question.
What do you mean by highest form? Is the highest amount?
No, the highest, the most virtuous or righteous.
Okay, thanks.
That's a great question. So I've got a couple of people who think anonymous. I'm sure no one's going to think that it's the gift is less than asked for. Does anyone else have any other thoughts? Otherwise, I'll let you know in just a moment. Just going to give you
What is
another
less
chance.
than fitting? Less than fitting, what does that mean?
So I'm a very wealthy person, and I could afford to give $100,000, and I give $10,000. So it's given my wealth and given what I'm capable of doing, I'm doing less than what I'm capable of doing. I think that's a great question. Oh, that's lovely. Highest donation, the one where one gives at the time when he himself needs a donation. Okay, I'm going to do one last call, and then I'm going to tell you what Maimonides said. And I love this. This is exactly the kinds of conversations we as Jews have about about these kinds of questions, about these issues. So I'm going to just close the chat box, and I'm going to go to the results based on what Maimonides said. So traditionally, this is one of the areas where Jews tend to agree. And you may or may not know, there's an old joke, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. But for the most part, when it comes to tzedakah, people pretty much stick with Maimonides. So Anan, I believe it was, in chat, said the job, and they're now out of order, so I can't tell you which ones you said, but a business partner job or a no interest loan, because the notion Maimonides felt really strongly is if someone is able to help themselves, then that is the highest form of tzedakah. And remember, the word tzedakah is also linked to the word righteous. So the most righteous act that you can do is to help someone be able to be self-supporting. And then if you go through the list, and I'm going to touch quickly on these points, because it's going to help understand in about 2 slides some of the things the Jewish community does, which I believe are a bit, Arshad was saying the correct synonymous term for tzedakah is zakat. So thank you for that. I'm going to pause because I'm going to move on. I just want to be sure the concept is clear of what tzedakah is, and the Maimonides ladder is also clear. So please put comments in chat, or I believe you can unmute yourself and ask a question. Both are welcome.
Yeah, hi, I have a question. Like, do you have like a set percentage that's like as part of the faith that people should be giving, like on annual basis?
You know what, that is one of those it depends questions. So thank you for asking that question. Technically, people are supposed to give between 10 and 14% of, yes, and tzedakah is more like tithe as well. So Jews, also similar to Christians, thank you for whoever just said that in chat. Jews, similar to Christians, also have the concept of tithing. It's a less well-known concept in Judaism. So I think if you asked most Jews, are you supposed to give money to charity? They would say, is it a religious obligation? They would say yes. If you ask them what the percentage would be, I suspect most Jews would not actually know that answer, in the way that my impression is that most religious Christians and even some secular Christians would actually know that it's meant to be 10 to 14%. Any other questions, either unmuting yourself or on chat?
Yeah, one more. So the 10-14% apply to the Christian faith too?
I can't speak for Lorraine Christians. I believe with Christians, it's the 10%, Iman Urshad, if you happen to know on this, please feel free to chime in or put something in chat. Off the top of my head, if I recall correctly, the 10% is biblical, so to speak. So the 10%, I believe the tithe is, I believe, in the Bible, which is why Christians and Jews would share that concept. The interpretation of that it could be up to 14%, I believe, is rabbinic. So in Judaism, we have what's in the Torah in the language, and it's in Hebrew and it's in ancient Hebrew, so it can be subject to much interpretation, which is why in Judaism, as in many faiths, we have such a broad range of practices. And as part of our faith, we have writings of the rabbis that are considered to be, have the weight of Torah, so be as important as Torah, as holy as Torah. And I believe the 10 to 14%, I believe that range, I think that's rabbinic, so given by the rabbis in conversation, not written in the Torah, if that makes sense. So I'm going to check if there's any other questions or anybody has any clarifications. Thank you for that comment. Sadak to Islam, Sadak is required. Yes. So it sounds, if I'm understanding the connection correctly, in terms of zakat and tzedakah, yes, tzedakah is a requirement of Judaism. Judaism has what we call 613 mitzvot, which mean commandments, and tzedakah is one of them. And one of your goals as a Jew is to fulfill as many of the 613 as you're able to. Okay, so I'm gonna, feel free, I'm just gonna move on, and then you are free to ask more questions. So I believe because of this notion of tzedakah, there are two things that are quite common in the Jewish community, and I find common in immigrant or refugee communities, but I don't find them to be broadly common in Canada. So we have in different major, Abdul, that is a great question. Can you either unmute yourself, or can you clarify? Because I don't, so who's entitled to give tzedakah in Judaism? I'm not sure I understand your question fully. I will say everybody, there certainly is some stuff in the Torah, which the Torah is what the Christians call the Old Testament, where everybody is expected to give something. And so in fact, one of the things that can happen with tzedakah is even the poorest are expected to give tzedakah. So if you have a bit more and you give tzedakah to a poor person, you may give them a little bit extra so that they can turn around and also give tzedakah themselves. So it's considered an obligation of all Jews. And there's a part in the Torah that I really love where they talk about if you can sacrifice that, you know, if you're wealthy and you can sacrifice, and I can't remember what it is because I'm not a rabbi and I don't maybe study as much as I should, but you know, you can give, I think it's a goat, and if you can't afford a goat, you can give this kind of an animal, and if you can't afford this, you can give a bird, and then I think it's that even the poorest could give, you know, a bird or two small birds. So everybody has an obligation to tzedakah, but we also have an obligation to help people who don't have the personal means to give tzedakah so that they can participate. And this goes back to that idea of 613 mitzvot. So you are our goal as Jews is to try to participate in all of them, or as many of them as we're able to. And since tzedakah is one of the mitzvot, we want to provide people with the means to be able to care for them, to be able to participate in that obligation as well. So, so keep asking these questions. I'm going to go back to the slide, but keep asking these questions because I'm learning from you, and I hope you're learning from me. So communities have organized free loan societies. We have one in Toronto. There are several scattered across Canada. There are many across North America. And the idea is it's a self-help society. So if, and the Jewish free loan or Hebrew free loan, they're often called, has suddenly very much come into the front and center of the Jewish community. It's been kind of one of those quiet programs that's existed in many communities like Toronto for probably over 100 years. And as you can see, it's interest-free loans for emergencies and a variety of emergencies, including, you know, personal living and medical, Jewish life cycle. So this would really be, I imagine this is true actually of all faith communities. If someone doesn't have, if someone's lost a family member and they don't have the money to be able to pay for a proper burial, that it supports things like that, but it can also support people going in university. Or as you can see, this ties all the way back to the previous slide. You can see interest-free loans can be to start a business. And so in the previous slide, you see how the highest form of tzedakah is giving people their start so that they don't need to rely on what I think in a Christian term might call charity. So I'm going to pause for a minute on this free loan question to see if you have any question about that. I know that many, I know, for example, in the Chinese community, there are also sort of what I think in Canadian they call self-help societies. So maybe everyone came from the same village or neighborhood. So that's a free loan society. Abdul is asking an awesome question about who deserves tzedakah in Judaism. And once again, I don't think, because I work in fundraising, I've actually studied this a lot. I'm not sure the average person knows that. There is a there's rabbinic conversations on everything. One of the interesting rabbinic conversations is, if someone asks you for money for food, you are absolutely obligated to give it to them, no matter how they're dressed, no matter how fancy their house is, no matter how expensive their car is. If someone says to you, will you please give me money for lunch? Will you please, when I see homeless people on the street, if they say to me, spare change for food, I am, even if their jar maybe has, I don't know, what looks like $20 in it or something, so that would be enough to probably buy them, you know, a lunch and maybe even a dinner at like Tim Hortons or something. If they say spare change for food, I am absolutely obligated to give them money. For other things, I don't feel like I know enough of an answer to that question to be able to answer. I wonder if I'm going to go back to the highest form of tzedakah slide. Feel free also, as my moderator, nudge me on if I'm going way too much far into the detail. I think that's why.
No, not at all. You're good to go. It's quite fascinating, and I just want to thank everyone for their also equally very interesting questions coming in. So no worries about that. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No. I appreciate that. Like, you know, I could kind of go on this forever. So I think just quickly doing, I'll get to Abdul's question in a minute. I'll just finish with Jamal's question as
Sure.
best I'm able, and then keep asking. I think that's why in Maimonides' ladder, so this is Moses Maimonides from the Middle Ages, while you'll note that the highest form is the business partnership job or no interest loan, and that obviously ties to the free loan societies. It ties to the anonymous gift. And you'll notice if you go all the way down, it's third from the bottom. So it's number 5. Recipient and donor know each other, but the recipient has to ask. So I understand your question. I guess what I'm saying from a Jewish lens, if someone has to ask, then I'm going to likely assume that I need to think about giving them the money because the community hasn't done what they needed to, right? The community hasn't offered them a free loan. Maybe a rabbi hasn't been able to facilitate a gift between each other. Somehow the community has in a little bit of a way let the person down. So that's my Jewish answer. In Canada, in terms of free loans are provided, the community puts money into the free loan society, so anyone can put money into the free loan society. It's in Canada and North America, to my knowledge, only provided to individuals. I don't know of any banks that do a free loan kind of arrangement. I don't know, maybe they have it in Israel. That's not something I know about. The other thing is the free loan is truly a loan. So thank you for asking that question, Khalid. It is in fact an interest-free loan. So the person is expected to pay it back, and that's part of how they, the notion is that that's what keeps the principal intact. For a free loan through I'm only familiar with the Toronto, and I keep saying Toronto Jewish free loan, and I keep saying Hebrew free loan. Hebrew free loan would be an older, probably more like my grandparents' generation, what they would have called it, but Jewish free loan, Hebrew free loan society, all exactly the same thing. So thank you for that question. They are interest-free. They are loans. At least in Toronto, they require 2 community co-signers. And if the person, for whatever reason, doesn't repay their loan to the Jewish Free Loan Society, then one or both of the co-signers will repay so that the society continues to operate and can continue to help people. One of the things I've certainly seen, it may not be clear. I actually work for a synagogue as a fundraiser, and I've certainly seen the rabbi, if someone is known to us as a member of our congregation, but maybe not well known otherwise, that the rabbi will find 1 or 2 people to co-sign the free loan so that the person can get the money. And there was a great question. That's a great question. Can tzedakah be used for administrative costs for the synagogue? So in my synagogue, in many synagogues, we call it a tzedakah campaign, and we definitely use it in part for administration. Similar, I would think, to other faith communities. If someone is, in terms of tzedakah, like I'm talking backwards. The largest expense most people get at running a synagogue is salaries for clergy. Not that they make $1 million, right? But they work, right? So tzedakah, and they're the facilitators of tzedakah. So in that context, like, please don't quote me. A rabbi may agree or not with my interpretation, but once again, as I said earlier, a standard joke in Judaism is 2 Jews, 3 opinions. So a very Jewish conversation is me saying, yes, tzedakah can be applied to administration. And another Jew might say, no, tzedakah cannot be applied to administration. And then we try to go look back at historical sources to see what have our sages, what have our rabbis and our leaders said in the past. And someone would say, well, in the Torah it says this, and it kind of goes from there.